All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's live, but we're here. We're going to do what we got to do. Let's talk about it. Hit that like button. How's it going, everybody? Debtopia, number one, always number one. What's up, Nia Perez? How are we doing? It says Raj in his bag with the constant content. We love to see it. We're just trying to do our thing. I'm just trying to make sure we always, talk to the Niner fans. And there's always something to say. Always got a lot on my mind. But how are we doing? Today was a very busy day. We had the rosters. As you know, 53-man roster was set. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go over the players that made it. We'll go answer some questions. I know I've talked about it earlier on Instagram. We talked about it all day. It's been a long, long day, but here we are. Let's go ahead and get to the questions. I don't know. What do you guys grade the final roster? I think the Niners did a great job. I think they nailed it out of the park. I think overall, I'd give them a B plus. I don't think there was too many like surprising moves. I think we discussed it earlier. Kamoko Ture, I think that was a very surprising one. Jason Poe, but I mean, looking back at the roster, he doesn't play tackle. They need tackle depth, and I think that's why they ended up going with Nick Zakel because he could play center, and they need center depth as well. And then they went with McKivitz and Jalen Moore. Those guys can play tackle. And unfortunate for Poe because he's not a tackle. He was like the last man, like the odd man out. So it is unfortunate there. I hope that Poe makes it back to the roster and clears waivers and gets back to the practice squad because he was a solid player, undrafted guy, very versatile. I think they like him, but unfortunately, it's a tough decision. They stuck with more running backs than most people thought. They went with a less, five wide receivers instead of six. They went with the third quarterback, and that was something that we kept on debating about. And then Malik Turner, I did think he would have made the team, but I thought he gave them good special teams value. But they were happy with the five wide receivers they have. So let's see. Jeptopia says A minus. Let's see. Sad Niner fan, what's good? It says, who do you think gets more carries this year, Mason or Sermon? It's a good question. Who gets more carries this year? Honestly, I think Mason is probably the answer most people are going to say. I think initially they're going to give Sermon a lot of chances. I think they're going to let this man have multiple opportunities to go out there and be maybe running back too. He was a third round pick, and he hasn't lived up to his billing yet. He looked great in the preseason, not the preseason, but in training camp. Sorry, Trey Sermon looked great in training camp, and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they talked about it. Specifically, John Lynch talked about how he looked so good in training camp, and he knows he didn't deliver in the preseason. But now they got to turn the page, and they're going to give him those opportunities. The Niners love to give people second chances. Dante Pettis, Jalen Hurd, Jerick McKinnon, a lot of those are some guys that we can name. For example, Solomon Thomas. Like these guys got a lot of extra chances from this team. Not just those guys, but there's been others. But those are the ones that come to mind right away. And then Sermon had some injuries. He struggled out the gate. A lot of people question if he's meant for this scheme. I still don't know if he's meant for this scheme, but I think they're going to give Sermon a lot of opportunities. And if he fails, and if there's injuries, because Elijah Mitchell, who I think is a great running back, and I think he's going to flourish in this system, if he doesn't get if he gets injured, look for Mason, man. This guy plays with heart. He's determined. Like this guy was undrafted, and he cracked the final roster because they knew if they were to cut Jordan Mason, he'd get snagged immediately. Immediately, like there's no way he cleared waivers. And I think Jordan Mason, he just has something that some of these guys don't, and that's his heart. He had a 1.6 chance to make this roster as an undrafted free agent. Those undrafted guys don't usually make the roster. There's so many of them throughout the league, and very few of them latch onto a team. So Jordan Mason, he played his ass off. Congrats to Jordan Mason, man. This guy definitely deserved to make the final roster. So I'm proud of him, and I think eventually, again, if there's injuries and Trey Sermon just doesn't come out sharp out the gates, Jordan Mason might get more carries than Trey Sermon. So I don't know. It is tough. It is going to be one of those questions that we're going to be dealing with all season. Who gets more carries in the backfield? Because Kyle Shanahan, it's hard to sit here and predict what he's going to do with the running game because any one of these running backs could go off. We're not even talking about TDP. We're not even talking about Jeff Wilson. They have a slew of good running backs. So that's a good question. Uh, Debtopia says, I was really sad to see Poe go. Hope he'll be back. Yeah, I agree. I liked him. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't versatile enough. He plays guard and center, and they went with Jake Brendel and Nick Zakel because those guys can play center. And Dan Brunskill, even though he's not a great center, he can play center, so he gives them that flexibility. Jason Poe, he can play guard and center, but he can't play tackle. Mike McGlinchey dealing with the knee issue. You need tackle depth. You got Jalen Moore, and you got Brunskill, and you got Colton McKivitz. All those guys can play tackle. And there's Trent Williams. Trent Williams is a dog. But if, God forbid, he gets hurt, if Trent Williams gets hurt, then guess what? And guess what? You need somebody in there that can play and step in for him. And Jason Poe, unfortunately, can't play tackle. So, odd man out. I hope he clears the waivers and makes it back on this team because he was an incredible story. Undrafted lineman out of Mercer. Nobody even knows where Mercer is. We had to look it up a couple of days ago and figure out where the heck it was on the map. And he really developed, and I like the kid. He has a good head on his shoulders. So I do hope that Jason Poe clears waivers and makes it back to the practice squad. But if he doesn't clear waivers, then that's more power to him. He did show out, and he did show some good tape out there. So if somebody claims him, they got a great young player that's going to develop into something special. And that's the thing. The Niners have so much talent that whoever we cut, they probably have a good chance of latching on somewhere else. I hope we can get the guys back that we want because we did cut a lot of good talent. So, it's tough. What's up? Russell Garcia, respecting the grind. Appreciate you, man. We got to grind every day, all day, every day. Niners, Warriors. What's up? How many games do you play before you spend the $25 million? You are you saying that how many games until the season goes that they're gonna spend the money on a free agent? I mean, I think they keep the money until they desperately need something. Like, go back to 2019. I used this example earlier. Okay, they were kind of struggling at wide receiver, and they had a young wide receiver core. They were dropping passes. It was that Seattle game. Seattle game was like, oh, they were dropping passes. Debo was still very young, still a rookie that year. He wasn't the Debo that we saw last year. He was still good, but they needed a veteran receiver. They needed somebody that could come in and be that dog to lead them a little further, and they needed a guy that could teach them. So they went in and they got Emmanuel Sanders. So I don't think they spend that money right away, unless they desperately look at this, waiver wire and say, oh, there's some good linemen. Like the only guy I would think maybe they can go and get is Alex Leatherwood. I know he got cut from the Raiders' first round pick. He has talent. Can they turn him around? They've done that with a lot of players. They've taken a player that maybe have been a bust somewhere and they kind of turn around. Laken Tomlinson, Arden Key, they turn their careers around. Maybe you go spend money on a guy like Alex Leatherwood. But I don't really think they're going to spend a lot of money right now. They had a good offseason. They brought in Travis Ward, Ray McLeod, George Odom, Oren Burks. They signed players. They did spend money. So I don't think they're pressed to go and use this money right away that they got from Jimmy. You also got to realize there's emergency situations. If somebody gets hurt, if somebody goes down in the middle of the season, you're going to need to go look and see who's available. So I don't think they're pressed right now unless someone like big time comes available and they have a pressing need. Like if there's an injury or there's a department on their team that's not playing up to speed, again, like that wide receiver a couple of years back, they went out and they traded for Emmanuel Sanders. So I don't think they're going to spend the money right away. It's good that they got it. So, good question. Who are the backup guards? Good question. So you have your starters, Banks and Burford. Backup guards, you got Nick Zakel. He could play center and guard. And you have Dan Brunskill. He could play guard, tackle, center. I don't know if he really plays center, but, he center. He's a guard tackle. So you got those two guys, Nick Zakel and Dan Brunskill are your backup guards. Jalen Moore technically can play guard and tackle. So Jalen Moore can slot over to the guard spot. So that right there is your depth. You have three guys that can pretty much play all three positions if needed, or they get between the mix of them, they could kind of play. So again, Nick Zakel, center guard, Dan Brunskill, right tackle. He could play tackle, guard, center, and then you have Jalen Moore who could play guard and tackle. So that's it. They kept 8 linemen. I thought they were going to keep 9. They did work out a few players. Jordan Miller, a couple other guys. this week. They worked out some guys, so maybe they bring him in. I don't know. They cleared their 53-man roster. Maybe they make some more moves and sign some guys and keep them on the roster, maybe down the line. So again, they did work out players. We'll see if they're okay with the 8 linemen they got. I don't think Niner fans are too okay with their 8 linemen they got. Again, that is to me the biggest concern of this whole roster. So I looked at the roster. I think they did a good job. And this is where I go with the B. Didn't give it an A. Quarterback solid. Quarterback, we talked about the situation. Trey Lance, phenomenal. They're rolling with him. Quarterback one. Jim Garoppolo, best backup in the business. Brock Purdy, shout out to Brock. Happy that he made the roster. It's great for him. He's like a young Jimmy Garoppolo, so he's going to get mentored by a guy that he plays very similar to. It's nice for him. And Jimmy's the mentor, and he could be a backup in case insurance policy. So quarterback, they did a great job. Wide receiver, we talked about it. Malik Turner probably could have made this roster, but they're not pressed. He's not going to sit there and get like big targets in a game. He was more of a special teams guy. Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, Gray, McLeod, they're all dogs. They can all block. They all have yak ability. Great wide receiver crew. But O-lineman, this is where we get to. O-line, depth is concerning. If somebody gets hurt on that front line, starting lineup, you got some issues. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm a little worried about O-line. Tight end, they went with the 3 that we thought for the most part. Kittle, Charlie Warner, and Dwelly. They're expected to bring back Tyler Kroft when they put Curtis Robinson and Jimmy Ward on the injured reserve, and they'll bring back Tyler Kroft. Shanahan loves to go with 4 tight ends. Makes sense. He's done it before. So, again, it makes sense. I don't see why there's an issue. And then you have running back. They went and they pretty much kept all the running backs we thought they were. And Jordan Mason, they kept Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., TDP, Trey Sermon. Again, that was controversial, but I didn't think it was surprising. I knew they were going to keep him. 3rd-round pick. And then you went and kept Jordan Mason plus Kyle Juszczyk. So good running backs. I think that's solid. You need the depth. They run the ball. They always get hurt. You need to make sure you have as many running backs as you can on this team. So I think that the depth was solid with running back. They kept one more than most people thought. Trey Sermon's kind of the guy that the outlier that people are like, I don't know if he's going to fit this team. They're going to give him the extra chance. And if he doesn't, they got a lot of running backs ready to step in and take that role. So Trey Sermon's got to come out and ball. At the end of the day, Trey Sermon has a lot to prove. He needs to go out there and win and get positive yards and then have good weeks. He's got to stack those days and have good weeks. So Trey Sermon, a lot of pressure on him still to go out there and perform. But overall, running back department, that's solid. They got some great running backs, man. And again, I'm just happy for Jordan Mason. I'm just very happy for Jordan Mason. This guy was a undrafted free agent, man. And they are so good at developing these unknown players. Nobody knew who a Jordan Mason was before the season, but now we love the guy. We were on edge. I was on edge. I was like, is Jordan Mason making the team? Is Jordan Mason making the team? And we are so happy that he made it. 1.6% chance to make the roster. So, let's see. Appreciate you, Joseph. Let's see. Let's get to some of these comments. Timothy, say Smitty doesn't. So say Jimmy doesn't reconstruct. How does Debo contract word? Would we be negative? No, I think they would have been able to do the Debo situation regardless if Debo was there or not. They already had done the Debo situation, the contract. That's all future money. It would have been fine. They wouldn't have been able to have emergency money for this year. Jimmy's contract, it wouldn't have went into full effect until the 11th. So honestly, even if Jimmy would have stayed on the roster with the bigger contract he had, it wouldn't have affected him because he would have got a little bit of incentive raise, and then all the money kind of gets spread to the future. And his contracts are kind of complicated, but it wouldn't have made him negative. They have more cap space next year, and the cap raises next year in the NFL. So honestly, they were right. They told us all offseason, like regardless if Jimmy's on the roster or not, they would have been able to sign Debo. It was just a matter of getting the right numbers, the right figures. It was a long process because Debo's agent was playing a certain game. He wanted to get a certain number, and Debo was going to sit back and wait until they got that number because he felt his value was worth a certain amount, and then they finally figured it out. It took time. Both sides had to kind of negotiate, and you have to have patience. We talked about that earlier on Instagram. when we were live, we were talking about it. You had to have patience. Fans, we got a little frustrated. Debo, I think, was getting a little impatient. He says he wanted to go out there and train with Trey. He knows he had to get that chemistry. But ultimately, this situation with Jimmy's contract didn't have any effect, really. Again, it helps him now. He took the restructured contract, and now they have cap space in case of emergency. And he can play in case of emergency. So it was the biggest insurance policy we could have done. He saved a lot of money for the team. So shout out to Gucci G for Jimmy G for making a kind of a team friendly move. That was a team friendly move. Not everybody does that. I mean, he was getting paid $25 million, and now he's going to get $6.5 million. It's a big difference. Russell Garcia says, I wouldn't be upset with bringing in Leatherwood. I agree. I wouldn't mind it. I know he got cut from Oakland because he didn't pan out to the way they want, but sometimes it's just situation. It's a coaching staff. It's a scheme. I think he's a talented player. He has potential. We have Colton McKivitz and Jalen Moore, and I'm not too sold on those guys. I think Leatherwood and the Niners system, give him some coaching. I think he would do better. I think he would do better with the Niners. We tend to fix a lot of players. Again, we mentioned this earlier. Laken Tomlinson, he wasn't that good as a Lions. He was a bust, is what everybody says. He came over to the Niners and he became a staple on the line. Arden Key, they thought he was a bust in Oakland, and we brought him over here, and he was a big time player for us last year, and he got paid a big contract because he balled out with us. I wouldn't be mad with getting Leatherwood. He's a young, talented first round pick. I think he'd be an upgrade over McKivitz and Jalen Moore. So, sad Niner fan. Do you think McGlinchey makes it to another contract with the Niners? I don't. I think this is it. I don't think he's going to be healthy enough. I don't think they're going to be able to pay him because he's not going to be healthy enough. I worry about the man's health. He tore his freaking quad. It's a major injury. Like, people don't realize how big this injury. I've been saying it all off season. And you got people on Twitter, he's going to be fine. He's fine. Mike McGlinchey, he looks so good. He looks healthy. He's coming into his own. He looks so fresh. He looks so healthy. He's in best shape of his career. He tore his fucking quad. I'm sorry. That is a bad injury for any football player, especially a lineman who relies on their legs. They have to be able to drive into the ground. You got to be able to cut laterally. You got to be able to stay up and hold your block. You tear your quad, you're going to put so much stress on your knees. That is a hard injury to rehab from, and now he's straining his knees. He's had knee problems before. That's a tough injury. Mike McGlinchey's not going to make it through this season. I'm sorry to say it. I hate to say it. It's not going to happen. And I don't think they bring him back because there's injury concern. They got to get another right tackle next season. They need to make sure they bolster the line next year. That's it. How old is McGlinchey? Was he like 28? I think. Let me see. I don't even know. Let's look it up. Everybody. He's 27. Yeah, I was close. January 12th, 1995. So he'll be 28 by the end of the year. He's 27 years old. And he's have chronic knee issues. It's not my problem I want to have. It's not what I want. 27 with knee issues. I feel bad for the guy. I feel bad for him. What's up, John? He says, okay, a late night tip from Raj. Chill, it's late on the East Coast, but I'm happy to be here. What's up, John? Yo, shout out to the East Coast watching right now. Man, it must be late over here. It's 9:50 over here. So it's 12:50 over there. Go to sleep, man. Nah, appreciate the views. How we doing? Oh, man. 5 corners is a bit concerning, says Russell. No, I don't think so. I think they had the best corners that they could get, man. You got Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley. Those two guys are going to be clamps. I love that duo. Diamador Lenore has been so good this offseason. I think he's ascended. He's really improved himself. You got Ambry, who was a hero last year. I think he can continue to grow and develop. Just got to stay focused in the game. And then Sam Womack, the gem. I think that is a phenomenal secondary. This is way better than the secondary we've had in the last couple of years. Like last year, Josh Norman, Dre Kirkpatrick. Are you kidding me, man? Like, just having Charvarius and Emmanuel Mosley alone is so great. And I'm glad we have them. They got to stay healthy. But the thing with the Niners is you got to remember, they like to manipulate the way the system works, the roster. So, okay, you have Emmanuel Mosley and Charvarius Ward, right? Now, on the practice squad, most likely, a lot of these guys are going to clear waivers. You got Tariq Castro Fields, he's going to go on the practice squad. Quantrez Knight, I'm going to cross my fingers. I hope he clears waivers and goes to the practice squad. But those two guys are really nice. And Dante Johnson, he can play any position on this field. I know they released him, but let's be honest. They didn't release Dante Johnson. He'll be back on this roster. He's had 35 career NFL transactions. That's insane, bro. That is absolutely insane. 35 transactions in the NFL. The Niners are going to cut him, and they'll finally bring him back if they need him. Dante Johnson is always one call away. He's definitely like the biggest. He's a bigger insurance policy than Jimmy Garoppolo. If they need a cornerback, it's Friday night. We got 2 days until game day. What are we doing? And Charvarius Ward is hurt. What are we gonna? Oh God, I know who I can call. Me speed dial. Dante, 9 lives. Dante Johnson. Yeah, this is Kyle Shanahan. I need you on Sunday. Just suit up. You know what to do. Your locker is already there. We're picking you back up on the team. Okay, thank you. I love you, Dante. Dante Johnson will always be available on this team. So they're solid. And then the other cool thing is you have my man Jason Verrett, who he's going to start the season on the PUP list. He's going to be on the physically unable to perform list for at least 4 weeks. If he gets healthy, icing on the cake. You bring in Jason Verrett towards the end of the season, and you got a solid quarterback that can play at a Pro Bowl level. I think they're good. We get good. No ID. Who gets cut when players come off the injured reserve? And now that is a good question. Is it going to be one of the linebackers? They kept, they kept Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles on this roster. There's an extra running back, right, that we had talked about. Maybe Trey Sermon if he's not performing. That is definitely a good question, and we'll have to tackle that as the season goes on. They cut Jordan Willis, but they're going to bring him back. They cut Tyler Kroft, but they're going to bring him back when Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson come back, right? So it's definitely a good question. And to me, it's going to be one of those like players that barely maybe limped onto the lineup. So I would look into like Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. Maybe Jordan Willis, if he doesn't play well, then he's going to lose his roster spot. But maybe one of those D linemen, because they have a lot of D linemen. Kerry Hyder, if he doesn't perform. So to me, it's probably going to be a roster spot where they have a lot of depth, where depth is plentiful. And right now, D-line is very stout. So I think they can take a hit on the D-line and cut somebody if they have to down the line. But again, that's the question that we'll know a little bit more as the season goes by. Maybe somebody will be hurt when one of those guys comes back. Maybe somebody will be underperforming and we're like, this guy's terrible, cut him. So it depends on the situation. So it's hard to answer that right now because there's a few players that you can think of. But it's definitely a good question to think about. But we'll know more when those players that are injured are ready to come back. So a little early to kind of predict that. That's a good question, though. No ID says Leatherwood is more suited for guard, not athletic enough to play tackle. Yeah, he's kind of a tweener, right? But I think but with the Niners, they got these athletic guys that can run. And maybe you're right. Maybe he can't be quick enough to kind of run those zone schemes. But honestly, I think Leatherwood's better than McKivitz and Jalen Moore. So for that very reason, he wouldn't be bad depth at tackle. But maybe overall he is a better guard. But again, they could use a guard depth as well. So I think at the end of the day, Leatherwood is better depth than anybody we have. That's a backup. Maybe not Dan Brunskill. I like Dan Brunskill. He's a really solid, reliable guy. So, is it Ayuk's final year? No, this is year 3 for Ayuk. Rookies have a 4-year contract, so he's got this year is his 3rd year, and the next year's 4th year. And then, because he's a first-round pick, they have the option to take the 5th year, the 5th-year option. So he's still got a couple more years left with the Niners. This is the breakout year. 3rd year is the breakout year. Deebo Samuel, 3rd year breakout. This is the breakout season. Most players in their 3rd year, they kind of hit that development. They've been in a little bit more. They've been in the NFL weight room for a couple of years. This is where the year where most players kind of take that leap. I think Brandon Ayuk to the moon this year. My man Russell says it's almost 1 over here. Wow. 4 more minutes from 1 o'clock. Shout out to the East Coast, man. Yeah. So no ID, exactly. Ayuk was a first-round pick. He could be an option for a 5th year. It's his third year for IU. Confirmed. Um, don't say Josh Norman's name out aloud. I won't say it again. It's like Voldemort. He who shall not be named. We will not say his name. We'll call him Voldemort from now on. I won't speak of that man's name. I'll just call that man Voldemort. 9 lives. 9 lives. Honestly, Dante Johnson has more than 9 lives. Like this guy has like infinite lives. I think this man's had 30, what do we say? 35 roster transactions. He's going on live number 36. He's 36 lives, Dante Johnson. He's literally had 35 roster transactions in the NFL. I think probably like 35 of them have been the Niners. It's incredible, dude. Incredible. Oh man, never misses. He is a right tackle. It didn't work because they moved him around. That's a good point too. When you move these players around and you try to get too creative, when you move a player out of their position, it doesn't work. You're right. When it's a young player and you try to move them around, sometimes it doesn't work. Not always, but the majority of the time, a young player, it's hard for them to change positions. Some of them can. Not everybody can. Not everybody's that versatile. Most players, they've played a position for their life, and they're so used to it. When you start to move them around in the NFL, it's a different ballgame. Bigger players, stronger players. You're not the biggest, strongest guy anymore, fastest guy anymore. So that is a good comment. That's a good comment. That maybe Alex Leatherwood didn't work out because they were moving around too much. So I'll buy it. 17 seasons. Shouldn't a roster bump come with that? 17 game seasons. I agree. I think they should make the rosters a little bit bigger. I know they did that with practice squad, but I feel like 53-man rosters it's not enough. I think you're right. Add like 2 or 3 more spots. I agree with that. I like that. Joseph says we cap on him, but he's there when we need him. I think you're talking about Dante Johnson, and that's definitely true. Like for the longest time, I think people like talk trash on Dante, and over the last year, I don't know if you've heard me talk on Dante, and I've come to respect him. I really have, because this guy, he really is there when we need him. Like at the end of the day, again, they can call him up, and he'll always be there, and he can play any position in the secondary. Is he an elite player? No. But he's serviceable. He knows the system, and he's dependable. You know what you get out of him. And I earned a lot of respect for Dante last year, and I've told this so many times. Like, okay, his mom passed away, man. That's heavy. That's tough. Like that was sad to hear. And he actually came back after 2 weeks, and he came back and he played, man. Like that's tough. That's tough. And he made some big plays down the stretch. Like he made some really important plays for us, at the end of the day. Like he came in and he made some contributions to the team, playing with the heavy heart. His mom passed away and he came out and he balled out, man. So respect Dante Johnson. He's been on this team for a long time. He's a crusty veteran. Is he a Hall of Fame player? No. But I respect Dante, man. And that's a very good comment. I like that, Joseph. Like at the end of the day, he's always been there for us. So, he's always like, he'll play whatever position. They tell him to jump, he says how high. So, what are the odds Dante Johnson gets signed somewhere else? Whoo, I don't know. I don't think he would get signed somewhere else. I think he knows the Niners are going to let him clear waivers and they'll bring him back. But man, can you imagine if he went to another team? I know he's played on other teams before. It just wouldn't seem right if Dante Johnson goes to another team. I mean, there's still like a 10 to 20% chance he gets signed somewhere because he's a veteran. And in the NFC West, maybe an NFC West takes him and it's like, we can bring him on. I mean, Seattle, the Cardinals, the Rams, they can all take him. You know how the NFC West rolls. They just recycle each other's players. So is there a chance? Yeah, 10 to 20%, maybe 10%. 20 is a little bit too much. But it'd be weird to see Dante Johnson on another team. That is weird. Let's see. Niles, has my record prediction changed? No, I still at 11-6. I haven't changed my record prediction at all. It's 11-6, and I don't think I'm changing that. I don't think I'm changing that record prediction. 11-6. I don't know. What do you guys think? What are your guys' 11? Sorry. What are your guys' record predictions? It's a little late. A little tired. What are your record predictions? Drop them in the comments. I say 11-6. 11-6. My man GJ says you need to promote the YouTube page on the Insta more. I promote it every day. Trust me, every day. Um, Most of the time, it's in the stories. I talk about it on the live. I've been going grinding on the live. I've been putting up a lot of YouTube content out. Probably not as much as I want to, but there's certain things that you're not allowed to post right now if I'm trying to get monetized. But there'll be more eventually. But yeah, I've been putting a lot of uh, content on Instagram to make sure that everybody knows we're on YouTube. But it's still early, it's a grind. No matter what you do in social media, you're always going to take time to build it. But yeah, I'm eventually gonna keep on growing this page. But yeah, we're on YouTube. I talk about it on Instagram all the time. I put it in my story every day. I go live, so we are here. I make it plenty. I put it in the stories a lot. We talk about it all the time, but we'll do more promotions as the season goes along. So, my man says if we have a 2019 type of O line, we will be 14-3. The sad thing is, I don't think we have a 2019 offensive line right now. Maybe eventually, but again, that is the one area where I'm a little concerned is the O line. Jesus says 12-5 with the ring. 12-5 with the ring. Let's get it. Let's get it. I hope so. I hope we win. I don't care what the record is, as long as we win a Super Bowl. You know, if we make it to the playoffs with 10 wins, 9 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins, as long as we make a Super Bowl championship, then I'll be happy. But I still think 11-6 is our record. I'm excited for this year. I hope everybody else is. John says this is good. Um, this season will be the saga on the soap network. This is definitely going to be a dramatic season. It already has been a dramatic off season. I mean, this is one of the crazy. Like the Niners are always in the headlines. We had the Deebo Samuel situation. We had the Jimmy Garoppolo rumors all off season. Then the surgery came, and then the Trey Lance arm fatigue. Trey's not ready. I mean, it was crazy. And then now we got the Jimmy Garoppolo situation all over. And Jimmy Garoppolo's still on the roster. Crazy situation. And the media, they're gonna do their thing. They're gonna if Trey struggles, they should put in Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh my God. Oh, Trey's not ready. It's gonna be dramatic. It's gonna be soap opera. But the Niners are must see TV, and we are always on people's minds. It's crazy. It's crazy. John Doe, appreciate you. George Kittle is about to play right tackle. That's you laugh at it, but there's more truth to it than you would imagine. Like George Kittle is going George Kittle's going to play a lot of linemen. I hate to say it because I want George Kittle to be a receiving threat. I want him to dominate in the receiving game because we know what George Kittle can do. There's games where he takes over 20 catches, 15. He's capable of stupid games like that. Like he could have like a 16 catch, 200-yard type of game. George Kittle could dominate, but he has to block a lot, especially if this line is a little. Kittle and Juszczyk have to block for the run game to be an extra blocker and pass protection. They have to. Like, I think someone asked me, what is my prediction stat prediction for George Kittle? Like, I wanted to predict him as a guy that's going to have 1,000 yards receiving, 80 catches, 10 touchdowns. Like, I want to say that, but I'm going to have to temper my expectations because I know he's going to have to block a lot more. And when you block, it's tough on the body. George Kittle is a tough player, man, and he plays very physical. He might miss 2 games. I hate to say it, but he might miss 2 games. He plays very cool. I think he's going to have about 60 catches, 800 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I think that's a pretty good, solid stat line. 60 catches, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. I don't see much more of that because he has to be a blocker, unfortunately, for this team. Joseph says, I'm not gonna lie. I've lost like 5 years of my life this offseason. Honestly, same. I've lost a lot of years of my life just on this offseason. I got a lot of gray hairs. Can't see them here on the camera, but man, I got some gray hairs settling in. It's bad. This season really aged me. This off season, I'm not even ready for the season. I think somebody tweeted the other day. This was probably the funniest tweet. Let me pull this tweet up. Who tweeted this? This was classic. Let me pull this tweet up. I gotta look at this. It's one of the best tweets I've seen in the last day. Okay, Sad Niners fan tweeted this. Look at that. Sad Niners fan said this was a banger of a tweet. Got 8,000 likes, 2,000 retweets, 115 comments. This is a banger tweet. He says 14. This was 2 days ago. This is 14 days until my mental health is in the hands of the San Francisco 49ers. This was the day before Jimmy Garoppolo contract reconstruction happened. And then yesterday, I was just cracking up. I was cracking up because he says this tweet 14 days until my mental health is in the hands of the San Francisco 49ers. The day after, they go and to the Jimmy G's restructured contract. Like, oh, God, this team just, they stress you out. What is going on? It's crazy. That was the funniest tweet I've seen in a while about the Niners. Because it's true. Our mental health is in the hands of the Niners. Like, we go through, my blood pressure rises on game day. It's stressful. You got the haters. You got the toxic fans. You got the, it's just a wild football season. I love it. It's a gift and a curse, though. I love the season. I love watching the team. I love, covering the team. But, man, it is exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting. So, John V says, I'm not going to lie. Trey's mistakes will no longer be lessons to learn, but consequences potentially first. Which now, see, you know what? This is the thing. Trey's the starter. He's the top dog. It's his team. They're going to have to let him succeed. They're going to have to let him fail. He's going to have to go through his ups and downs. He's young. It's his first year as a starter. He's going to go through pitfalls and he's going to go through some great times. He's going to have his peaks and his valleys. He's going to have his moments where you're like, man, what a guy. He's going to have some moments where you're like, man, what a fucking bum. Like, you're going to go through those moments. But they got to let him succeed. They got to let him go through his mistakes. They can't make him think that. They already said this is Trey's team. Jimmy's just the backup. The only way Jimmy comes in is if Trey gets hurt. That's it. Bottom line. If Trey gets hurt, Jimmy's the quarterback. That's it. But when Trey's healthy, they have to put him back in the roster because that's the only way this works. Now, if Trey gets hurt and Jimmy comes in and he's rolling and Trey gets healthy and then you don't put him back in the roster, you mess the whole situation. That's the only way it works is if he's healthy or if he's injured and Jimmy comes in. That's the only way. Because you're right. He's going to go through some struggles and people are going to say, oh, they should switch him up. It's the media. The media is going to play that game. But honestly, let him fail. Let him mess up. Because Jimmy was at that point before. When he struggled, when he failed, Kyle Shanahan probably wanted to pull him a few times, but he kept him out there. He always kept him out there unless he was hurt. He always kept him out there. You got to keep that leash strong, long. Trey Lance is going to have a leash that's long. Because Jimmy had a leash that was long. In order to learn, you got to make mistakes. And I don't agree with that. I think it still will be lessons to learn. Because he's only played one full season in college. He's still a young quarterback. He's 22 years old. This is his first year as a starter. He's going to use all this as a lesson. Like, whether you agree with it or not, it's still a lesson for Trey. He's still learning. Whatever happens this season is still a lesson. I don't think that they're going to make this like a consequence. They've already said this is Trey's team, and whatever happens is a learning experience. Look at all young quarterbacks. They learn from their rookies' years or their first year as starter. Peyton Manning, when his first year as a starter, it was not good. He learned from that. Josh Allen, right? Every young quarterback that becomes great, they learn from this stuff. They make mistakes. So I still think it's going to be lessons learned because he's first year as a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I see it a little differently. I think this is a good word to describe it from Slick. Growing pains. Best way to describe it. Growing pains. You're going to have growing pains. He's 22 years old. I'm 38. I still have growing pains. It's going to be growing pains. So, yeah, the shadow of Jimmy lingering. I think a lot of people are, and I think it's going to take everybody some time to adjust to this because this is an awkward. This is not an awkward. I shouldn't use the word awkward. I think it's a unique situation. But you know what? The Niners are in a position that not a lot of teams are in. Like, Kyle Shanahan is on the forefront of something. Like when I first saw this, news yesterday, and when I first thought of it, I was like a lot of people. I was like, "Oh, this is so bad for Trey. This is a lot of pressure." But the more I thought about it, the more I talked to people, the more I talked to Eric Davis. I talked to some people, some of the beat writers. I talked to a lot of these people close to the team, and people that are, you know, people I consider great minds of the game. They know far more than me. And we spoke, and we sat down, and I was like, you know what? This is actually smart because they have two quarterbacks in this league that can win games. That could be a starter in this league. And Shanahan said it today. Like most teams have one good quarterback, and then their backup is you pray that they just don't make mistakes. If Trey gets hurt, Jimmy Garoppolo, he can win with the Niner team. He's done it before. They went to a Super Bowl and an NFC Championship. So it's like, on Sundays when your team has an injured quarterback and you get the backup and you're like, oh God, just don't screw this up. Now we're gonna be like, okay, Trey's hurt. It sucks. Hopefully he gets healthy. Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a starting quarterback in this league. Not too worried. Like, I think a lot more teams are going to follow this model moving forward. I really do. It's a solid model. Like, not a lot of teams are going to be able to beat us, no matter who our quarterback is. I hope Trey doesn't get hurt. I don't want him to, but we have an ultimate insurance policy. And I know a lot of people are worried about Jimmy and his lingering shadow, and I really was. But if they are truly committed to Kyle Shanahan, and or sorry, not Kyle Shanahan, if Kyle Shanahan is truly committed to Trey Lance, and Trey Lance is that guy, the man, the guy that's supposed to take us to the promised land, if he's the future, if he's the franchise, there should not be any doubt. He's going to go out there. He's going to leave no crumbs. This is going to make him better. The competition is going to push his ass, and he's going to come out looking like a star that we know he can be. So, yeah, I know Jimmy's there, and a lot of people are worried because if he gets on a roll, I think, is there a chance that Kyle might say, screw it, pull the plug? Yeah, of course. But I think Kyle Shanahan is going to let Trey be the guy. He's going to have a long leash. And Kyle's tied to this because if he screws up and if Trey doesn't pan out, it's going to look bad on Kyle. And Kyle has the biggest ego in the NFL. Let's be honest. He has a huge ego. If Kyle botches this, he's on the hot seat. So he wants Trey to succeed. You want Trey to succeed. But you now have a backup plan that still allows you to win because Kyle Shanahan still needs to win games. So regardless of the outcome, whoever takes us to the promised land and we win a Super Bowl, we all going to end up being happy at the end of the year. The ultimate goal is the Super Bowl. The players love them both. And I think they did the right thing. So, again, I initially was on that same boat. I was like, oh, man, this is so bad. But I think I bought into it. Maybe I bought into it. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But I think that this is going to end up well, as long as Kyle continues to let Trey be the guy. That's it. So that's it. Let's get back to these comments. I know I digressed on that, but that's it. So let's see. Do you think this is the ideal path for Trey? If not, what do you think would have been the ideal? This definitely wasn't been my first choice. I was surprised. I think it's something different. This is definitely cutting edge. This is different than any young quarterback. And I said it before, I probably would have made the cut with Jimmy a while back. I would have made the cut. I would have. I would have went way back. Just would have cut ties with them or traded them for whatever value I can get. Obviously, they weren't going to get trade value because of the shoulder surgery. If I'm running this situation, I would have got Jimmy I would have got rid of him a long time ago because I'm in the thought of, like John says, is you let him focus. You don't want to have any lingering doubt. Like, that's my take on it. But I honestly think with the Niners, they're such a unique team. I think this is going to work out for him because Trey is, regardless if Jimmy's there or not, they have a very, very good team in place. They have a top defense, have great weapons. No young quarterback is in the best position like Trey, or in a better position than Trey Lance. So I think the Niners did a good job. I think this was a solid move, a smart move. If it was up to me, I would have gave Trey the reins a little bit further, or further back, and cut Jimmy a little further back. Because in my mind is you want him to go out there and get that reps. He needs those reps. He needs the mental reps. He needs the physical reps. Like, look at Justin Fields. Like, I know he had a bad year last year. He had a horrible rookie season in terms of his production, but he needed to go out there and get those reps. He learned from that. He learned from those mistakes and getting pounded out there. So I like to have quarterbacks go out there and make those mistakes, get that out of their system. But I think the Niners are in a good position because you have a good, solid team. Jimmy did teach Trey a lot. We'll be honest. Trey says it all the time. He learned a lot from Jimmy as a professional. So I think they did the right thing for them. For the Niners, I think they really did the right thing. If it was up to me, I would have pulled the plug a little earlier. But I don't think they did it. I don't think they did anything wrong in this situation. So no ID says I'm rocking with that Van Gogh shirt. Hey, appreciate you. I like this shirt. I'm a big Van Gogh guy. It's my favorite art piece, so I figured get it on a shirt, right? Had my first Old English at 22. Is Jimmy G pulling up to practice tomorrow? That's a good question, Skyflow. Let's keep an eye on that. Let's keep an eye on that because he hasn't really practiced with the team. He's been rehabbing, and he hasn't went to any team meetings. Let's keep an eye on that situation tomorrow. I'm going to keep a very close eye on the Jimmy watch. Has he been at practice? It's a good question. I don't know if he's going to be there, but I definitely will keep an eye on that situation for you. I like that. That's a good thing to keep an eye on. That's good. Oh, Joseph says, I'm not sure I caught the IG live with Eric Davis. Why was he at the Seahawks game? He was coaching. He told me he's trying to dabble and get into the coaching side of things. So he wanted to kind of get his feet wet. And Pete Carroll called him up. Him and Pete are friends. A good friend, Pete Carroll, called him up. And he says, hey, I want to give you this opportunity. Come out here, help me coach, and teach you some things. So he said he learned a lot from Pete. And he was out there doing some coaching for him. So he's trying to get into the coaching game. And that's why Eric Davis is with the Seattle. So it was, he smiled a little when I asked him. I was like, hey, Eric Davis, I got to ask you, man. We haven't had you on the live for a minute. What the hell were you in Seattle? It was definitely funny. But yeah, he was respect. He said, hey, look, Pete Carroll called me. I'm not going to tell Pete Carroll no. I don't blame the guy, Is Jimmy even healthy enough to help us? From all accounts that I understand, they're saying he is. He's fully cleared. So, again, if he shows up to practice, then I think we'll get more answers. So now I think the moving forward is now we need to see if Jimmy's going to go out there and practice. Now we need to see him go out there and what's the next step for Jimmy. So these are all good questions, and I think this is all going to kind of play out in the next couple of weeks and see. So John says, Raj, do you have any tinfoil hat scenarios that have crossed your mind regarding the Jimmy Garoppolo situation? I'm so tinfoiled hat out at this point with Jimmy that your best guess is as good as mine. Like, I could not, I kept going back and forth on this. Like, is he going to stay on the roster? I thought they were going to cut him. And then I was like, no, they're not. And then they're going to keep him until July 11th. But now they restructured it. It changes the whole game. The only tinfoil hat I have, and it's really maybe not even a tinfoil hat situation, is in the middle of the year before the trade deadline, passes, if there's a team that is desperate for a quarterback because of an injury, they'll trade Jimmy Garoppolo. That's literally the only theory I can think of. I honestly can't think of anything right now because they have made this situation so hard to read. Your best guess is as good as mine at this point, John. It's crazy, man. Nobody saw it coming. I mean, how many people were shook last night when Jimmy Garoppolo news dropped? I dropped that post last night. I think we posted them. We made the post. That post had over 2,000 comments. Over 2,000 comments. That's a lot of comments on one post, on the breaking news post. 2,000 comments. There's like 2,200 comments. Bleacher Report, they posted it. Obviously, they got more but they had like 2,500 comments. I almost had as many comments as Bleacher Report. That's how crazy this was because the Niner fans, we were shook. 2,000 comments, man. Nobody knows what's going on with this situation. Like, this is the craziest situation that you could have thought of. Like, I could not believe. I'm sitting there. I see the notification. I'm like, come again? So honestly, John, your guess is as good as mine, man. Oh, Skyflow says, I'm finally going to my first Niners game ever this year at Levi's. Yo, shout out to you. Good job, man. Excited. Congrats. What game are you going to? Let us know. Steven Reynolds, my man. How do you think Alex Leatherwood to the Niners would be? Maybe they can revive him after he's been horrible. Thanks, Diaper Nation. Yeah, we talked about this already. I like the thought of Alex Leatherwood. Again, he's kind of felt his career isn't going the way that many thought. He looks like a bust, but the Niners are very good at turning people's careers around. I think it would be worth a flyer, and you need depth at the O line. And if they turn this guy into something special, that's a dub, man. That's a massive dub. So yeah, give him a chance. Joseph says, I'm convinced Pete Carroll watches your lives. Probably does. There's probably a lot of people that watch my lives. We got 193 followers on Instagram. I'm sure somebody out there is watching us. There's a lot of people, a lot of eyes out there, a lot of eyes in the sky. 193,000 followers. Sure, somebody out there's watching. Like, I get players' friends and families on the live. I'm sure as hell that somebody crazy is watching the live. You never know. You never know. What's up, SG Sports Talk? Great. M, what's up? Skyflow. Let's see. John says, I saw your post and I had to tell my wife to take the kids for a car ride. I needed to destroy my. I'm pretty sure that you weren't alone, John. I think a lot of people reacted to this news like, what the actual bleep? Yesterday was great. It was the craziest. Dude, I mean, the messages that I was like, holy shit, this is great. That was a crazy day. It's a crazy day. It's a crazy day. Oh man. Anyways, this was a fun little late night live. I wanted to come in and just talk to some fans and go over some initial thoughts and answer some questions. It's always fun to talk to you guys. Again, trying to keep building the YouTube. I appreciate you guys so much. Hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies. RSF 49ers is live on YouTube every day. Keep grinding. Appreciate you guys. East Coast folks, get your ass to bed. I'm about to get myself to bed soon. So I love you. Have a good day tomorrow and have a good night for the rest of you. And again, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be live again. Appreciate you. Yeah, take care. Have a good night. Love you.